Дым от сигарет кружится, как тезис в споре, тонкий английский лед, под ним кипящее море. Рюмка на полпальца, где-то усталая печень, но он опять рвется в зал, как будто последняя встреча. Жесткое вино разума обжигает, но будет спящих каждое слово, как выстрел в зал, и не осталось священных щелей, где бы он тихо промолчал. Где-то в Багдаде жара тонет в сарказме и прозе. Он пишет, как режет ножом по мифам на белой бумаге. В студиях, в старых барах, в маленьких залах кампусов он ставит под роспись богов и веру сдает под авансом. Жесткое вино разума обжигает, но будет спящих каждое слово, как выстрел в зал, и не осталось священных щелей, где бы он тихо промолчал. Тело слабее, голос сипит, но шутка выходит точнее. Он поднимает стакан и говорит: поверим, кого соберет скорее. Публика держит дыхание, он не дает ей надежд, только упрямая еда к сомнению и крови. И следуй смерть. Честное вино разума обжигает, но будет спящий каждое слово, как выстрел в зал, и не осталось священных щелей, где бы он тихо промолчал.
This land was made for you and me. That includes our poor and hungry. If you want to join the fight, come stand with us on the right side of history. Divided we stand, united we fall.
right, good evening, everybody. This is Brian Weinstein from Divided We Stand. If you're unfamiliar with this channel, this is Divided We Stand, and you can find us here every Sunday night, usually around 8 o'clock evening Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Savings Time, I guess. But in any case, we're here on Sundays, and who knows, maybe we'll add some dates as I retire in a month and a half. That would be really, really nice. So as I said, you can find us on YouTube. It is a demonetized channel. It is unmonetized, which means essentially you can watch without any interruption, no commercials. We're not trying to sell anything. We are commiserating, and we are partisans in a certain way, generally. But you don't have to worry about commercials, and that's a good thing. And for as long as YouTube lets us live at doing business that way, that's fine. You can also find us on Facebook. That is also not a monetized channel. That is a group page. If you look up Divided We Stand group page, you'll see a few of them, but ours is the political one. And we have a lot of members. We have over, well, I think we're almost exactly at 1,600 members, and we've been around doing business for 6 years now. So it's quite an accomplishment for Dave and me, and we're really proud of it. We, again, never intended on having this thing go this long, but hey, fascism happens, you know what I mean? So, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce my co-host and good friend Dave Price, former educator, lecturer, and writer, and he, I believe, something as like a religious retreat he just went on. So let's ask him about that. That doesn't sound like Dave, does it? But maybe he's a changed man, or he's born again. Who knows? Let's find out. Dave, so is this a legitimate change in your life, or another sarcastic episode?
Now, I wouldn't use sarcasm. It's kind of interesting. The past 2 days, I went down yesterday to check out the National Mall, which was being prepared for a rededication of 250 years of America's Christian values. Wow. Okay. So it was a large setup, stage, etc. If anybody's familiar with the National Mall, it's done like in segments. And between Congress and the street where you go to the Washington Monument, there are 4 major sections, and this took up 2. So this was a biggie. It looked sort of like professional wrestling or a rock concert. A lot of trucks, a lot of movement. So it was fun down there. It was interesting, as people were asking questions yesterday. And then I went back down today. Now, as we speak, it is still going on. It was a 9-hour long service. Now, we know that church services can run a while, but 9 hours. I gave it its own billing. I was there for not the 9 hours. They said they promised prayer, and they delivered that. They promised praise, and they delivered that. But there was a third P that I think actually was the most important of the 3.
Propaganda? No?
You got it. Okay. It was amazing to talk to the people. Now, I just did that. I didn't go down to offend them or mess with them. Each time I do something a little bit different. So today was just to try to have an intellectual conversation with a group of people. And I was able to get some pictures, some of which we'll show you tonight, more of which I'll put on Facebook or on the Divided We Stand page maybe tomorrow. But Brian, maybe it'd be easiest we start if you asked a few questions that you think you or others, or somebody has a question they want to send in, do it. I'll try to pay attention to it because it's one of those things where if you weren't there, I could tell you about it, but that's my view. Maybe there's something you're more interested in. So Brian, shoot.
All right, just the visuals. Okay, so when you entered this area where they're having their conference, did you see, you think there was a lot of, first of all, you think there was a lot of money put into the show?
No question. No question. I mean, it was, give it its due. It was professional. If you disregarded what was said, certainly a lot of gospel music, couple award-winning gospel singers there, some stomping preachers. I did not hear any of the political speeches. I just check. I always check right before we go on air, and I guess J.D. Vance did speak. He was scheduled. Hegseth was scheduled. Little Mikey Johnson was scheduled. Mario Rubio was scheduled, and I think we'll see a lot of that.
And also, what percentage of the people there would you? I mean, just a rough speculation here of what percentage of the people were Caucasian? Over 90?
85 to 90, yeah. Interesting group. The second largest was not African American. The second largest was Hispanic. Now, you can't translate, one thing to another. But there were 15 scheduled ministers to speak, or men of the clergy. 14 of them were Christian, and all 14 would fall under Christian nationalism or Christian fundamentalism. A couple of the firebrands from podcasting world, etc. As you looked at the crowd, it's basically what you would expect. Now, there were a couple of surprises, I guess. One was there was a decided lack of Trump hats, or Make America Great hats, as I've seen before. But again, not unusual, because there were a lot of hats, some of which you'll see here, that were dealing with some kind of Christian or religious theme. So you could definitely tell by looking at the crowd that it was indeed a religious service.
Okay, so I guess the next question is, were they trying to push their ideas to anybody around there? Did they bring pamphlets, things like that?
Oh yes. I have one tonight that I think Brian, you could take from. I'm going to try later in the show, ladies and gentlemen. So you want to stay tuned. Some shows have exorcisms, some have magic tricks. We're going to get Brian saved tonight. He doesn't think it's going to happen, but I now know how to do that.
I'm long gone.
I don't know. No,
I like the other guy better than the guy you're talking about.
Yeah, well, we know that.
He didn't kill as much, If I had to choose between the two.
No, I kind of always play a role when I go down. So I was kind of undercover today. I wore a confusing shirt for them. My shirt said, I graduated Villanova, and so did the Pope, just saying. So they weren't real sure if I was religious or making fun.
Right, but they probably weren't a Catholic crowd, though, correct? I mean, aside from the Hispanics, it may be better.
No. I would say, yeah, that's what was a little surprising. More than that, obviously, many of the people that I talked to were not from the area, had come in on buses. And it was kind of interesting in this respect, too. Whenever you go to these things, and I encourage everybody to, that can, to get to one of these big Washington, D.C. events, because it's one of a kind. I mean, D.C., yeah, you can do them in New York and San Francisco and all these cities, but it's got a feel in D.C. Mm-hmm. And as I say, so one of the things is they had a very high wall, which is unusual, around the whole thing. Okay, so they had one dedicated entrance, and then they had a VIP entrance, and then they had if you paid entrance. So there was but it was there were metal detectors there, which of course it does.
So you pay your way in, you get a little bit closer to God. It sounds like.
Well, that's you saying what you do. I mean, it certainly it cost a lot to put that on, so they're going to get some money involved.
How about police control there?
Oh my God! Everywhere you looked, you had, in fact, a very diverse authoritarian force. You had, of course, National Park Police, mm-hmm. because it's part of the National Park. You had the ongoing National Guard there, and then you had U.S. Marshals, which were kind of unusual. Didn't see any White House security, didn't see any Secret Service, but they would have been there if indeed Vance came for his, but on the outside patrols. There's in small groups of 5 or 6, waiting there. Didn't have any use for them in terms of there was nothing intimidating. But around this thing, like life went on. That's what kind of struck me. You have all these people, and right now is the high season for visits to D.C. in terms of school groups. Between now and say June 10th is the high point. Like right next door to us. They're almost in one of the hotels here. That's right, exactly across the. There are 600 kids visiting TC that are there from around the country, and so they're all over. But they're going to see what they want to see, and also there were quite a few people, I guess, who didn't want to be in the crowd, and it was hot, and there was no shade in the crowd, who were sitting under the trees along the mall, so they could hear but not really see.
And I would speculate that there weren't a lot of African Americans there in attendance.
No, not too many.
It's a good thing.
Not as many as you might expect for a religious rally.
They're not going to buy it.
No, well, that's part of it. And the other thing is, had they had black ministers, you probably would have had a lot more.
Except that the Caucasians probably wouldn't show up because the church is divided.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. So the attitude that I always kind of figure out an attitude to go. So today I was just going to do intellectual questioning, and that posed. And so I spent most of my time outside of the crowd, isolating and talking to people that were either arriving or sitting outside. Throw up one of the pictures. The first.
Sure. Let me change scenes here for this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw your pictures.
I could explain some of these things. They say a. Einstein is an undercover agent for Vladimir Putin.
Okay, let's go to your first one here.
First one up. Yeah, throw that one up.
Can you see?
All
it?
right. So, right there, ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at. Well, you were looking at. Hold on. Brian's going to figure this out.
Oh, I can easily.
Maybe.
I'm just going to drag it in here. I mean, I think that's the best way to do it.
Why not? How I do mine, yeah.
Yeah, it makes it easier. It's not like real slick way to. Okay, anyway, here we go.
Just pull that bad boy.
By the way, folks, I wasn't late today, but Ecamm was not going to let me start unless I had to update. All right, Dave. So what do we have here?
Well, this kind of captures. This is one of the celebrity. It says celebrating 250 years of the American spirit. And basically that was the theme, which of course is a false theme.
That's right. They're trying to co-opt the Constitution here.
Exactly. And we'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And certainly I talked a little bit about that. But so you can see that's a pretty big trailer. And there were a number of those. As I say, this happened to be for VIPs before they went on. So they didn't let me in, and that was fine. So anyway, but that's kind of an example. And then put the other one up. The shots I had yesterday are a collection of shots I took yesterday.
Okay.
So anyway, you kind of move it around. Go up top first. Yeah, we'll go up top. That is about half the seats that they had. So they were prepared. That's a lot of chairs to set up. Behind in the distance, you can see the Natural History Museum through the trees there.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Now, the one thing with Ecamm, they have two different scenes. They have the computer, and then they have the phone scene. So it's a little bit different.
So this is just a couple shots of the stage. Now, you notice you've got the Freedom 250, which of course is the political side. And then you've got the religious side with the cross and George Washington. And what I found interesting in in doing this, you have the Smithsonian, which is a fairly accurate museum of American history, and we were not founded under Christian principles. In fact,
and so we left. We left England
for part of that. Yeah, I mean, so. It's certainly a misrepresentation of history, but
absolutely.
Trump and his people have no
revisionist history.
Well, it's something. I mean, think about this, everybody. Is the South used the Bible to justify the Civil War? I mean, it's not unusual in history that people do that. What is kind of, ironic? You talk about Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, and a lot of people don't know this. Well, he was, and Thomas Jefferson created his own Bible. And you can see it. You can see it in the library.
Yeah, he cut out everything that was absurd.
He cut out everything that he did not believe fell under rational thought. So that doesn't sound like somebody who, oh, gee, Benjamin Franklin spent his whole life denying religion, said it was, false, which doesn't surprise us.
And even in those days, it was difficult to speak out. But
Right.
if you were intelligent, you could, you didn't have to go back, a certain number of years to be able to figure out that, this thing's kind of weird.
No. Tom Paine, there are
Common
people
sense.
who believe, and I have to be one of them, that without Thomas Paine, he kind of paved the way with common sense, laid the literary base, if you will, or laid the word base for this. He he thought it was all hokum.
I just think it's kind of insulting having, there you have Washington, and then to the left you have the cross, and it's this idea that there's somehow this connection between the two.
Well, that's now the other thing that I thought was very interesting. Rededicate 250. Now it's sort of like I always used to stop people with MAGA hats a while ago and say, "Pardon me, sir or madam, can I ask you a question? It says there on your hat, 'Make America Great Again.' Could you tell me a date when it was great? So I can," which of course they could never do, or they because there's no answer to it. It's never been great for everyone. Well, it's the same thing here. Rededicate means it was dedicated, and it never was.
Never was, right?
Never.
So they're lying essentially.
Well, of course, but they're lying for a purpose, and the purpose is for their ulterior motives, which I think there's some. I think there were some. There weren't too many smart people there. I think there are some who genuinely believe in the hokum. There might be one of them right there. This is a group I spent some time with. They were outside the perimeter, and
I assume that somebody kicked a field goal, or no?
Yes, that was what happened. Now, what that is, and it's anybody who's been to one of these knows that at any point and so I asked them. I said, "Why? What does that mean? Or how did it start?" I knew, but I wouldn't
It's
have
bueno.
Yeah, well, what they're saying is basically it has nothing to do with football, although it is your analogy was kind of cool. It's basically you're opening yourself up, you're praising the person's speaking, and you're praising the message of God. So what you're saying is if you're doing this in their world, I am open to receiving what you are saying through your messenger. That's basically an interpretation. Now, are they hearing voices? No, because someone is speaking. And again, Anthony, who we know, is a true Christian, I do believe, having talked to a number of people. Certainly, fear is something, but what they do is, I think it's interesting in this nationalist, they've turned fear into almost I want to die and I want America, because I want the end of this, because this is bad and evil. This was one of my favorite people. You can't go to a rally and not take a big cross, right? He's just a person coming. He brought that himself.
Maybe you should have nailed him to it.
Well, I don't know, like.
Oh, I think he might need a couple nails in each hand though to make that thing work.
Well, but in the back, of course, a lot of sayings today. Let's look at his. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. So one of the questions that I asked today, numerous times, kind of with that, I said, okay, I can understand the idea of sin. Sin is doing a bad thing. I said, it depends on who whether you can, is it political sin? Is it, just a moral sin? Is it whatever? But I said, if, all that's just washed away, everything you did, oh yes, if you open your heart to God. So if you murdered 17 people, and then it paused for, but it's the idea of it is they are convinced that God is in control. Take that a step further. One of the other questions I asked on numerous occasions was, okay, I kind of phrased it this way, phrased it different ways. But I said, okay, I think anybody with any sense, and I would say to them, and you obviously seem like sensible people, would understand that Donald Trump is not the poster boy for Christianity. I said, if you can go find me a more unchristian person in a position of power, that would be interesting. And of course, their retort was, as expected, was, well, God doesn't make mistakes, so God put Trump there for a reason. In fact, one of the speakers, I didn't hear him, but I saw it was, he actually praised God for finally getting around to giving us a president who would build the ballroom. Think about that for a moment. He said it took 200 years for God to do this, but God finally got around to give us a president who will build a, what the hell?
Well, yeah, well, but seriously, Dave, it sounds funny, but this is, I think, a true psychosis, because any time that you are, leaving reality, you
Yes.
become a danger for yourself and for others. And you know how I feel about leaving reality. The truth is what is, and you can have your religious beliefs, but when you have people like this, I do believe that's a real psychosis, because it's an absolute, and this is in a certain sense, Dave, not unlike the Trumpers, because it's not simply propaganda they believe, it's a retreat from reason in general.
But what would be interesting, and if any young people out there or old people out there need a religious doctoral dissertation, it would be interesting to determine, are there any Christian nationalists who aren't Trump supporters? And I think the answer would be no. I think they're together. Now, could you have Trump supporters who aren't Christian nationalists? Absolutely. But the converse.
But let me ask you, though, because there's a certain idea that how could because of the fact that they are supporting this, and yet they are true Christians, at least in their minds. But frankly speaking, is it that surprising that these people be hook, line, and sinker into this kind of thing? And I'm not trying to belittle religious people, because my mother was religious. You know what I mean? I know your mother was religious, but that's a problem. This is exactly what you see or hear is the problem. Was he blowing a shofar here?
No, there's no chauffeur there.
Or is it some kind of phallic poem that's going to be like Rilke or something?
This was probably the most interesting trio that I encountered. So you had it's kind of an odd trio. First, let's start with, if you enlarge the man's hat, so we can read the man on the right.
That's as much as I can go. Jesus and something with Trump.
Okay, Jesus is my savior. Trump is my president. And so at least he did not say Trump is his God. I mean, that was a point I was worried about. So we'll start with the
right, but I'm sure he believes that in some way Trump is an arm of God.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to that.
Because God makes no mistakes, except every time. You know what I mean?
Then put that back up again for a second, or 2 or 12. Wait.
The same one, or you want a different one?
Yeah, same one. Same one.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so
congratulations, it's a beer.
So what happens is, the woman on the left, she was really interesting. I asked her,
is she related to Clarence Thomas at all, or no?
No, I don't think so. No, she, and again with a smile and very
two
nice,
shofars.
I said, what do you hope to accomplish here, or what do you want the group to accomplish? She said, we're doing it. We're praying away all sins. All sins are gone. If there's a sin, we're going to pray it away. Okay. So if she's correct, tomorrow will be a sinless day. I don't think we're going to get that. She got up and left with her friends. And so I parked myself for a while on the bench there with these two gentlemen, Ron and Mike. And they were nice guys. Okay. If you weren't talking about religion, you weren't there, they'd be fine. They were not belligerent. They both said that they kind of had their lives were kind of a mess, and God took over, and it's better now. So of course I asked them the traditional questions. How do you? And basically, in a nice way, they just said, well, Trump is an envoy of God, and he's bringing, God, like you said, God does not make mistakes, so there's a reason that He's there. I said, well, the Bible, interesting thing. I said, the Bible, really it's, well, in my case, I believe it's some of the greatest mythology ever put together. It's like Homer's Odyssey and Iliad, but it's myth. But it's an interesting myth.
Dave, I'm going to interrupt you because I'm going to forget.
Sure.
But Judy said, did you actually have any discussion about the fact they were?
Yes, I did. I read about why they were. Was to bring, well, two things. One was to bring attention to what was going on, and the other was to call God. They said.
Okay.
So, and notice they actually
They do it sitting down too. I don't think they did it back in those days. Sitting down
Mike also
in a lounge chair.
Mike also had his trumpet there, so I thought at first they were like a band. I didn't. Anyway.
What a freaky scene.
But back to that just for a moment. If you think about the Bible, as I say, Anthony, the answer to that is if they were concealed. I saw no weapons whatsoever. I didn't see leave that. Don't put that up yet, Brian, for a second. Okay. Take that back out. And I'll tell you. Okay, so with the Bible, if you read the Bible, it's really two stories. One is in the Old Testament, one is in the New Testament. So I asked a number of people this question. I said, well, let's just take one example. I said, if you look at the essence of the Old Testament, it's an eye for an eye, an eye for an eye. And if you look at the New Testament, Jesus comes along and says, turn the other cheek.
But they're both, and we had this discussion very, very briefly, but, the idea is that the Old Testament is, very unapologetic. It's brutal, and then there's a softening in the New Testament. But it can be looked at two ways, because if you think in Christian theology, when you condemn somebody to hell forever simply for not believing, it's kind of like overcooking something, so to speak. That could be considered also very severe. I mean, I believe both are just as absurd.
But I'm just saying, if you really separate any of the God part or whatever, just those two statements, I think captures. So I said, how do you handle the contradictions in the Bible? Which is something that that you could do that. And they basically said, we accept it on faith. And again, that's where I said, well, really, we have a difference here. We're right across the street from the American Natural Science Museum, Museum of Natural Science and History.
Isn't that ironic?
Yes. And so we're really talking about two things here. There's a scientific explanation, and that's over there, and here we are. But I said, the problem with faith is you can't prove faith. Then the most interesting thing of the day happened. A young man in his 30s came up, and he's the one who offered me this. And I said, I'll take it. Sure. I didn't take other things. And he spent 30 minutes quoting the Bible to me, and his sole task was to try to convert.
Isn't that weird? It sounds like he spoke more than you did.
Oh,
he shut Dave Price up. He should go to heaven just for saying that.
No. What would happen? I just wanted to listen to him. And what it was robotic. Now, yes, of course.
This is a canned response. He's got his.
This is what I say.
Cherry picked.
And if I had really cared about it,
from the Bible,
and I almost did it, but I was tired of listening. I was gonna say, son, listen to me. Do you know anything about Norman Vincent Peale? And he probably would say no. I said he wrote a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And we got to get you some training from that book, because what you're doing, you're just throwing shit out. Nobody's going to be converted by what you say. I said it would be rare. In other words, for that to happen, God would have to intercede, because it's the stories. Are just
maybe those people in the maybe probably they were lonely people. So those people in the lounge chairs, you could convince them. I mean, if you can convince them to vote for Trump, I would imagine there's a lot of things you can convince them.
So the point of talking about those people, you've got a real microcosm with the four people. The black woman is the not quite, but the zealot, right? I mean, just the in the fervor dancing. You had Mike and Ron, who were not logical, but were decent people to talk to, and you could really hold a conversation with them. And I think they took what I said, you know, it's not going to change their lives, and that wasn't the intent. I did ask
Yeah, but
them,
in a certain way, though, wouldn't you think that these people who are easy to talk to, maybe more reasonable, but in a certain sense, they're the ones you at least expect to have this, idea that somehow there's this connection between religion and the Constitution.
And but
They
both
know
of them
better,
were raised.
basically, or they should.
Both of them were raised in a evangelical faith. Did not pick it up and return to it later. And then Don, who was he had just come from church. He wanted me to go with him. I hope you don't mind, Brian. I said you would go. He is just, he's that program robot. So in that little 4-piece there, you had kind of a cross section of everybody was there. So are they all bad people? Depends on your definition of bad, but I will say this. They are dangerous people in this respect. Every one of them I talk to, every one person I talk to believes that Donald Trump should be president of the United States. And how you can take Christianity...
That's pretty dangerous.
And Donald
That's
Trump...
psychosis.
Merge them.
And you don't have to be a psychiatrist to know that. When you have a break from reality, you have psychosis.
I felt they were so nice. They were young kids, so I really didn't do it. But there was a lot of displays around too, right? So this one group of young people who were out there, proselytizing, they had made posters that they laid on the ground that had the 10 Commandments, laid out. And I really wanted to say to them, do you realize that the man over here, pointing in the direction of the White House, right, has broken every one of them, sometimes 7 or 8 of them in one day? All right. But I didn't. That would be lost on them. There's another 3 picture there. Can you throw that one up? There's one of to show that it wasn't all Christian.
This isn't the Marjorie Taylor Greene one?
No, there should be one.
Okay, I got another 2 here that we have.
Not the 2 on the bottom. Should have come with the others. No, not that one. That's
okay.
But we can talk about that.
Okay.
What?
I see you in there.
Yeah, we do.
I want to put that back in there?
No, that's fine. We can do that later.
Get another one.
But there's
here.
one. Nope. Those are 2 for the last. Nope.
Because
there should be one before.
There's 6.
No. There should be 6 and 2. If you don't have it, it's
fine. I have 6,
okay,
and I just did 5 of them.
Be the 5th one.
This is the one I showed before, but I'll do it. I'll be glad to put it up again.
Yep.
Maybe
I didn't put it. I don't know. There should be one with signs. 3 people with or two people with no.
Shofar dudes.
And that's 5. Run them all. Run them from 1, and let's just.
All right.
Check.
I'm putting. Boom is 1. Okay. And I'm gonna close it.
Go
This
fast.
takes about 2 seconds to. Well, it takes about 10 seconds to
understand.
show up. I got the wheel there. The wheel of death. That's
Next.
the first one.
Yep.
This is your second one.
Take it down.
This is. It's good.
Nope. Take it down. Maybe I didn't send it. I don't know.
And here comes
But I can 4.
the cross.
As soon as it comes up, take it down. I guess I didn't. Was it?
Then
yeah.
I have Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's the only one I haven't shown.
Well, hold that for a moment. And the other one we already saw. Well, what I should have sent, and I didn't, so it's my bad, as my students used to say. There were people there protesting what was going on. Basically, saying that Christian nationalism is wrong. Not really attacking God or anything like that, just attacking the people that believe it. No kings. There's still one of the things that No Kings did. I don't know if it did it all over the country, Brian, but here they actually put messages on umbrellas, and a lot of people kept those umbrellas. So there were a lot of those circulating. Nice, keeps the sun off of you, and also says No Kings or that kind of thing. And so I talked to them, and they just felt strongly that what was happening here was dangerous. What was happening here was frightening. The same things we all say, and they decided to take some time out of their day to come do it. There were a couple people I knew from the old Flair, when that was still running. Flair was when they had the 24/7 protest at Union Station, which Trump just brought the troops in and tore it down. And so they come. Another gentleman who was part of Flair, a young guy, he's typical of some of the people that have come, I've met here in D.C. He was from Pennsylvania. He was very active in the campaign. He realized that, when Trump came back, we were in trouble. He had a job that he could do from home, and he moved here to become part of the protest. And he's been active in just about everything he can do. We have another one coming up on the 20th. And of course, there's all kinds of...
Something coming up on the 4th. They have the biggest fireworks. Traumatize the animals near the area. This
now,
would be horrible.
Let's put Marjorie Taylor Greene up now.
Here's your girl.
Yep. Well, this is interesting. It's a fascinating thing to me.
I don't find her fascinating at all. All right.
Okay, here's
Make
what it
your
is.
point on this one, because
Here we go. Marjorie Taylor Greene was Donald Trump's was probably Donald Trump's biggest supporter in Congress. She also is completely nuts with space lasers and all that kind of stuff. But then they had a falling out, right? And she, I'm not insulting your reading ability, but I'll read it for myself. Everyone in his administration, of course, Trump's administration, that claims to be a Christian needs to fall on their knees and beg forgiveness from God and stop worshiping the president and intervene in Trump's madness. I know all of you and him, and he has gone insane, and all of you are complicit. Now, that sounds like a message you could deliver, I could deliver, any non-Trump, but because she's Marjorie Taylor Greene, we know that there's something else going on. I
she
think
does
that's
basically the same thing about Biden too, though. So
that's what I'm saying. There's something else. What I think is going on. My guess would be that she's positioning herself for a run for VP. I don't think she'll run for president.
No.
There for a while, it seemed like a ticket was going to be Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene. My point of bringing up Marjorie Taylor Greene is not to make her some kind of heroine, but what it is, if somebody is the enemy of my enemy, doesn't make him or her my friend, but it does make them my frenemy. I'm glad, okay? Because Marjorie Taylor Greene has this following, okay? Don't know how many, but she has a following.
Company.
Now, her following, Trump and she were in line. Now they're not. Do they stay with Marjorie Taylor Greene? Do they go and stay with Trump? Same thing, Tucker Carlson. Same thing, Joe Rogan. And the list goes on and on and on as these people break. That is good for us.
I'm gonna put brakes on that one, Dave, because Paul called me up. Hadn't talked to Paul for a while. Paul called me up. Paul McGinley. Mm-hmm. He called me up a couple of days ago, and he's had it with Trump, of course. But he mentioned Ohio, and he mentioned to me he felt that things were so bad that people are just going to revolt, and no matter what, even with the gerrymandering, that it's going to happen. This guy's out. This guy is definitely out. And I said, well, I'd like to believe that you're right, Paul, but you have a state where you live where people voted for J.D. Vance, and I do believe the Supreme Court's behind. And he admitted, of course, the Supreme Court is in his pocket. I'm just paraphrasing what Paul said, but I don't have that confidence. I don't. I think a lot of people in Russia, during certain times, would certainly not want to have Putin as president, at least maybe 10 years ago, and those votes didn't really count. The votes didn't count twice in Ukraine.
Let's look at it statistically as best we can do. There are 30 right now today, according to a composite of polls. There are 34% of the people that are behind Donald Trump. That's 1/3. That hasn't varied much. It's gone up as high as 40 and hasn't dropped. I think it's dropped to 32. They're there. Okay, and you have
some of them are in South Dakota and some of them in North Dakota and some of them, and they have a hell of a lot of power.
And that's part of it,
because there is the cheat.
Yeah, and then secondly, you have about 40% of the American people who are opposed to Trump, and that number can go up. I don't see Trump's numbers going up. Now, the real cause, there are really four things I think to be concerned about. Number one is that, what is America's makeup when the election is held? That's one. Now I'm talking about the presidential, not the upcoming one. The second would be related to that is what shape is the country in, right? I mean, look,
Have you seen the prices?
I've never heard this many people legitimately complaining about prices.
And basically their transportation costs adding to the value of the product.
The grocery store. I mean, that's
a tax.
The two things that hit people, the three things that I think hit people the hardest would be housing. That's unaffordable now.
Right. Grocery stores and gasoline.
Gasoline. And
every week they're visible. Every 3 days they're visible.
Now, remember there was a movement, we forget quickly, but there was a movement that MAGA did, and this is why sometimes they kick our butt, where they put stickers on the gas pumps. Biden did this. Do you remember that?
Right.
Well, now there's a movement, but it's kind of falling off. Trump did this. And I don't know that, that 34%, they think Biden's still doing it. I don't know how they come up with that.
Can you lean back for a second, Dave?
Sure. Then you've
got make your vows to them or something like that. Maybe you did.
Yeah, I did do that. So I was going to say. So I said that's two things. The third thing is, will people be intimidated? Because I guarantee you, if Trump is in office in 2028, there will be a military or quasi-military presence at voting booths. That's a given. Okay.
I'd say quasi, and that's more dangerous.
Well, I'm just saying it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Well, I'd rather have the real military if I had to have it.
But if you're going to be intimidated, you're going to be. Grandmom doesn't want to go.
And that's why, by the way, those people weren't intimidated. They didn't have to bring guns. That answers your question about that, Anthony, or whoever was asking about guns, because they got their teams right there.
Yeah. Then you've got.
So you got Kyle there sitting on the sidelines, ready to do his thing.
Then you've got. Will the election results be accurate? Okay. In other words,
right, and to all of these questions, you could answer no to each one based on what we've been seeing. The man cheats at everything. He lies. Everything out of his goddamn mouth is a lie. He's going to continue. There's no stop. They're all filthy. They're racist. They're narcissists. They're acolytes. They are going to cheat. They have been cheating. He's going to get away with it until I see something happening in the Democratic Party to knock this thing. They're going to stay in control because that's all they have. Right? The truth is what is. They have control. Every time they need help from the Supreme Court, what happens? Help comes in its way.
And again, I don't want to play I told you so. But since the 70s, I've been saying that the most important position in the United States is not the President of the United States. It's the collective makeup of the Supreme Court. The President can be overturned. The Supreme Court can't. Think about that, Brian. It's the only institution in America, including the presidency, that cannot be overturned. And we now have, I don't care how you want to parse it. I parse it as 6-3. Some people say 3-3-3 with 3 leaning to 6.
Right.
It doesn't matter. When something gets to the court, Supreme Court, it's shocking if it doesn't go the Republicans' way. Now, let's get back up to the midterms. Will we have midterms? Okay. I mean, can Trump come up with some connivance that we're in to dinner? Will Venezuela and Cuba be states in voting?
Well, if we can go back a little bit because the title of the show is with the summit and
okay, yeah, we haven't talked about that much, and that was very important.
And I think it is important to at least we can kind of tie this in.
Right.
China on its way up. We're apparently on our way down. It looked like Trump was going there to beg for things to happen because he needs that straight open because the prices that we just talked about are affected by 20% of the oil going through the Strait of Hormuz. We have dwindling stocks of weapons, high accuracy weapons, which are very, very expensive. And by the way, war is so much different now than it was 5 years ago, because what we've seen in Ukraine with the drones have changed everything. So, what did he? I mean, he really wants something. He will give up Taiwan, I would think. Don't you believe that?
Oh, absolutely.
He's going to do what he's going to do. He doesn't care about anybody except himself, so he will do this. But the question is, she's going to see what Putin in 2 days, because it kind of equals them out. So they're all going to Xi. So whatever Trump wants is going to be a little bit different than what that Xi wants. So maybe Putin says, look, I know that he's going to give you Taiwan or something, that if you give him something back, but we need something back too. We need the sanctions off of us. So can you tell him we'll lay a little bit off of Taiwan for a year or two, and you open up the sanctions, and just as long as you're, I don't trust him at all. I don't trust Putin at all, and I can see how Xi could play both sides, and that's why I think it's interesting that Xi is going to see him 2 days later, 2 days from now. I mean, it's just he can play both of them. He is in control.
The problem, the big problem is, let's assume for a moment that there's nothing wrong with Trump other than his psychological profile. That's bad enough.
He is. There's no doubt that he's a narcissist. There could be other things involved. He is a narcissist.
A narcissist with psychopathic and sociopathic tendencies, no question. But now
he's completely dependent upon people glorifying him, or he cannot continue.
Correct. Now, he is dense. There is no question about that. He doesn't understand. There's no question about that. There's things emerging now as people kind of go more in depth with what he's saying, that he misunderstands words, and then uses them wrong again. You know what I mean? Like illegal aliens. It was like the idea of, he thought they were real. Who knows? Then
and this is the guy who's going to China to deal with intelligent people. I mean, she may be, a communist or this or that, but the point is, these are intelligent negotiators. And then he brings. By the way, speculate: is he giving up the ship there by bringing? Is he trying to tempt the Chinese with the CEOs? They shouldn't be negotiating with.
Let's take at face value what he said. He said he was bringing them to show how China could be more advanced. Well, so they have their own people. They have their own Musks. They have their, they don't need that. Basically, Trump doesn't know how the world functions. He doesn't know how the White House functions. He just doesn't know anything. Okay, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. You can think people think he's a great businessman. We're talking today at the rally with the good guys when we were having our discussion, and I hate this term, perfect storm. I mean, I really do, but it really wasn't. From FDR and the New Deal to Donald Trump, everything fell in place to give us Donald Trump. It really did, Brian. Mm-hmm. Whether was it, we
knew that night, 6 years ago.
Whether it was Nixon with the Southern strategy, whether it was
10 years ago, shit.
Yeah, or whether it was Newt Gingrich, with the Tea Party, everything was just the Bushes. I don't think George Bush and H.W. were bad people necessarily, but I do think that they were on the side of conservatism, but it was a different conservatism then too. It was basically a disagreement on funding and such things as that. But big business, trickle down does not trickle down. That's where we are. Anybody believes that, might as well believe in the tooth fairy.
Look, it's Ronnie and I both see the prices, and it's getting more difficult. But we think of people who don't generate as much income. They're living as lower middle class. How are they going to survive this thing? They're going to just eat like Doritos and they have a really poor diet.
And of course, what's fascinating is if you go to the grocery store, the worst food there is the cheapest.
Right. So they're going to get the ultra processed foods. You're defeating
Correct.
everything Kennedy was talking about. The one good thing Kennedy talked about the ingredients in the food, but I'll give him that. But look what's happened.
Yeah. So whether you're looking at it from the religious right standpoint, as I spent 2 days doing here, whether you're looking at it from the summit, there's no question that Chinese handed Trump his hat and then sent him home with a smile. I mean, think about this. You don't think they were trolling him when they gave him seeds?
Right.
He tore that was a knock on the rose garden, you fool, and he thank you, you gave me something, No,
The fact that it seemed like he was begging, and then,
Well, he
then
was
after
begging.
the summit, he's saying that they're good friends. We got a lot. We sold 200
They
planes.
have to be, or look. His people, will follow him. The last time when Biden met with the Chinese, they bowed to him as a sign of, Did you see Trump bow?
No, I
And yet
didn't.
it's
But I didn't actually watch much of it.
No, I just watched. I saw the clip, and that's something that his people should say. Wait a minute, but they don't.
He did that
Because there's
to a Saudi prince or something like that. I
He
believe.
did that before.
Well, yeah. He did like a little bit of this thing because they said, "Well, you got to." Was it King Faisal or something like that? He did this kind of
what
stuff.
they
I said, "Yeah."
I mean, think about this. You have a president of the United States who does not obey the laws of the land. It doesn't matter. The courts come and say you can't do that, and he goes ahead and does it anyway. He will not be stopped except by death, critical illness, and even then, I think he would try to hang on. So death, he can't. I mean, I don't think he's going to come back after 3 days. Some people might view him as Jesus Christ, but I don't think that's going to happen. Or,
Well, it wouldn't matter because they could make one up in their head and say this person. If they can say that Trump was president while Biden was president, they can say anything because these people will believe this shit. They believe there's a propensity for them to like whatever they want. They believe that is fact.
do you understand? Do you understand that Trump delivers that to them?
Yes, I do.
Because their hatred of something is greater than their sense of
Right.
self-preservation. Their hatred of something. Now you can't. It may be liberals. It may be blacks. It may be gays. It may be women. It may be whatever. It doesn't matter. They are so filled with hate that they cannot see that they are damaging.
Yeah,
themselves.
and these ones. They might say they're not racist, but they don't. I'm sure they don't live in a neighborhood
shit.
with diversity. I'm
Oh,
sure.
No, my God, no. Look,
I'm
Supreme
so
Court can
sick of it. It's just it's
Supreme Court can sit there.
makes me throw up.
Now, there are people, historians, and I wonder, you can't go back. Ain't no time machine to go back. But there are some historians who believe we should have done more to cripple the South. Because we kind of just let them come back.
Well, for the first 10 years, it looked like when under Reconstruction things were going all right, but then we kind of let them creep back into their crap, and they still haven't stopped.
And that's the idea. If you look at every state, do you realize, Brian, that every state currently that's looking to change their redistricting, I mean,
It's one of the southern states, right?
are
Rebel states.
Yep. And so to say that racism is dead, or to say that we're a post-racist society, you have to be completely oblivious, not just to history, but to the world around you. I mean, think about it. 5 white kids walk up, nobody runs. 5 black kids walk up, everybody says they're going to get mugged and run. It's, or not everyone, but a lot of people. So, and Trump is either smart enough or something to play on that fear. And so when you say, like, why do they stay with him? That's why Trump delivers. Trump delivers to those people, and they are so whatever that they
Just
can't
say it,
see
Dave.
that
They're
Trump-
so fucked up.
No, I'm not trying to. I'm just saying. I'm at a loss of words. They are so with their hatred. They don't understand that Trump is a danger to them, is hurting them. He's hurting every American because anybody who goes to the grocery store or the gas pump or tries to buy a house or go. Now, two other things, kind of tying it in personal. I was trying to do this. So this week, shout out to my granddaughter who's with her mother
Valedictorian.
now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that was nice. But you know what's more important than being valedictorian? I was very, of course, I'm proud of that.
A good
Is
person.
the fact is that she is. I mean, she is going to be a radical and a rebel who needs to be dealt with. I mean, she, like I said, the proudest moment I had of her in high school, she wore to an Alabama school a support trans kids T-shirt, and that's her way. Something's wrong. And she actually said in her graduation speech, she laughed. She said, I know you guys out there, meaning really the males, you guys used to rage bait me all the time, but you didn't get me, because they would say things just, to get her going. But you know what really hit me when I was there? So the first thing we did, which is not unusual, it's the first time in a long time, Brian, that I pledged allegiance, right? Because they started with the pledge, which is, normal, especially in the South.
Right.
And I just read an article that I'm going to really try to push. They said we should not pledge allegiance to the flag. We should pledge allegiance to the Constitution.
Yes, we should.
Think about that. If you were, right now, that if you're pledged, that would make a difference. And this same group is pushing, and I agree with this too, is don't swear in on the Bible, swear in on the Constitution, because that's what you're vowing to uphold.
Right.
So, you say, well, that's just semantical, or no, I think we know we need to make changes. And again, today we were talking, Brian, one of three things are going to happen. We're either going to lose our country, and that's a distinct possibility. We're going to get the country back, but it's going to go on the way it was, and that's not good. But if we can get it back and then really make it better by doing some of the things that need to be done. Hawaii.
So let's just get it back. Let's just defeat him first.
Well, I know. I understand.
But I know what you're saying. But they're still going to put something in the spokes.
Let's look at it. The Democrats, they aren't the people we need in. The Bernies, the AOCs, yes, but a lot of them, the Chuck Schumers now. And look at your turncoats. You've got Jeff Andrew, who went from Democrat to Republican. You got John Fetterman, who also now is a Republican.
He didn't switch parties yet, but he might as well be right now.
He hasn't voted with the Democrats in 6 months. But yes, so we have to look at a lot of things. The electoral. I mean, we could go from now till doomsday, as they say in the cliche. But the time's winding down, so I guess the clock on the wall says it's that time. I went first last week. You go first this week. More optimistic, less optimistic. Where are you, Brian?
My good friend, tried to cheer me up, and he's very optimistic. And after that conversation, I still am very pessimistic. And again, for the reasons I said before, so there's no reason for me to go over it again. But I am just as pessimistic. I don't see any change. I don't see anything getting better. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. And welcome to the brave new world.
I'm going to say I'm a little bit more optimistic than last week, not a lot, and not for any reason other than Trump looks worse this week than he did last week, and I hope that look means he's closer to death or incapacitation. Other than that, no. If he's around for the midterms and if he's around for after the midterms, whole different world. So like you just said earlier, and Brian, that's very important, one step at a time. So right now, we need to do everything we can to try to get, I don't care who they are, get Democrats elected.
And we as Democrats have to get our shit together. And we have to be able to, because the Democratic Party is, it carries everything. We've got to stay in the center and just stay together.
Here's what it has to be. It has to be Jim Carville's "It's the economy, stupid." That's one. You have to have a plan to make it better. You can't just say,
Right.
I'm coming in.
And you have to
But
make it
then-
understandable so the people who might not vote
Right.
for you will actually vote for you.
And then the second thing is that Trump
Immigration
is
is still a
clear-
big thing, and that's still really big.
Trump is a clear and present danger, and so you have to present that, and because again, we're talking about we've only lost, and only it's a huge.
But they
loss.
knew that,
We've
Dave.
lost-
They've known that in the prior election. I mean, we did win with Biden, but I'm saying I still think immigration is the number one issue where people still vote for him, and
I
how Democrats,
okay.
label what they are going to do with immigration. They have specific laws, and this is how we're going to do it, and it's going to be fair. We're not going to have floodgates open and stuff like that. If they can somehow
You're not-
convince that,
I think, Brian, I think I'm agreeing with what you said, but I don't think there's any way to change that. So I'm saying I wouldn't hammer that either way. I would go just.
those are the
strictly-
voters that are still you need. You need them.
No, Brian, what you need.
I don't think this warning about Trump. I mean, I don't think that. I think they think so simply, and we
Brian,
overestimate.
you keep saying they. I'm giving up the 34%. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, but
You
there's
have-
around 15% who they think it has to be because they think simply that they will vote.
The 15% of the remaining 66%.
Right. The 15%
Okay.
there.
Well,
the
then-
independents, so to speak, who tend
Do
to
you really-
vote Democratic. By the way, I understand that.
Do you really think they may claim they're independent, but we only have, you're either conservative or you're either a Republican or Democrat. You can pretend to be. an
Right.
independent.
Well, I won't give
There's-
you an argument there.
There's no such thing. So the question becomes the real question becomes twofold. How do you stop Trump? And the second part of it is how do one of the ways is to have a Democratic Congress.
And how do you ensure a fair vote? And you brought that up.
and how do you do that? And that we'll see in the in
And
the
you're
upcoming-
slightly more optimistic.
because Trump's health is failing. I don't think he can last, Brian. Now, I don't have anything to base
Yeah,
that
but that
on.
ideology's still there. They'll vote in a dead man instead of a Democrat.
See, I'm not so sure about that because there's no.
They're pretty
sig-
stupid, Dave. And
no,
they're
no.
evil.
No, I'm talking about their idol is Donald Trump. Their idol is not Donald Trump Jr. It's not Ivanka Trump. It's certainly not Marco Rubio. It's certainly not J.D. Vance. It's certainly not. It's probably Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, not Tucker now.
So it won't matter.
I don't.
The next person you get is going to be just as revolting as he is.
But
they're gonna get
they
it.
have to win, bro.
They will, and they're going to cheat their way to it. Believe me, this is where the Russian experience may pay off for me because this is the way they do things that way.
I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying then we have not done our job. I will do it this way. If they can win with cheating, we have not done our job.
Yes, I would agree with you on that, and that's how we should probably end it.
And that would be fun. And then we deserve what happens to us.
All right.
Well, that
Dave.
cheerful note.
Yeah, okay. But you are slightly optimistic. Okay. But you're hoping for
you gotta-
something to happen so you can be more
No. Here's what I'm saying.
hoping
just
his
so you're
health
clear.
will go further south.
I'm hoping Donald Trump is closer to death. No, I believe Donald
well,
Trump
he is. Technically, we all are, so he is too.
Yeah. Well, you look a little bit better than him. Not a whole lot better than
Not a
him.
little blah, but no. I'm an old man too, but
But look at him. I mean, he can't even walk. I mean, come
people
on.
like that live until they're 99. I mean, really. I mean,
All
I'm
right.
sick of it.
Okay, you know this new thing about the
God takes the
probability
good ones, right? I mean,
Right.
why isn't
You know,
God
you know-
putting them out?
You've been
I
following
think
the probability.
it tells you the situation already.
Here we go. Probability market. I'm going to say Trump will not live to run for president, even if he wanted to again.
All right. And I'm going to say that entire coalition is so evil, and you have a Supreme Court that is going to outlive Trump. Is going to make things difficult for your life and for my life, and maybe the generation before us, for the rest
There is
of
a way.
their lives.
There is a couple ways around it, but we have to have the Democrats in, and the Democrats have to do their job. So we'll just leave it at that. But right now,
Yeah, Biden really, he showed some strength,
no.
Garland.
Look, what Joe Biden was
I like
pretty-
Biden, but he talked
no.
tough. Just do something.
No,
Get
here's
cruel.
what it was. Joe Biden was a nice guy whose time had passed him by, and
He should have fired Garland immediately.
He didn't understand. He was fighting. I guess the best way to say it is he was fighting World War I when we were in World War II.
Yeah, he's complete. Yeah, yeah. I would have liked Buttigieg, but smart people don't make it in our government. That's for sure.
Well, again, thanks to everyone who watched, and Brian is in the countdown.
That's right,
I understand.
month and a half.
Is it true that the students are coming and just counting down with you?
Well, you
They
know
realize-
that from
they
experience.
realize-
They were
That's
never. I mean, look, I love my students, and some of them work very, very hard. But there is this thing that happens in May, and part of it too is a lot of, not just Bridgeton, but many schools. They have so many activities that they pull the kids out of the classroom that there becomes like a carnival atmosphere, and that carnival atmosphere definitely contributes to the idea that my year is over, or I'm going to keep having this party going. You know what I mean? It's kind of like somebody drinking at a bar, 1 a.m. and they're having a good time. Like the evening cannot end. Where's the after party? So I mean, thankfully I do have a group of students who work really, really hard. But as a whole, and you've said before, Dave, it's not just Bridgeton; it's everywhere. This is not. This country is not very serious about education. I think the teachers are serious.
Absolutely.
The teachers, for the most part,
no.
are very serious, and they're trying to do something. And I'm speaking as a teacher.
And what's going to happen, Brian? I've been doing a lot and I've been doing some writing on it too. Is we have an educational crisis worse than anything we've ever had, and we don't have the people in power to resolve it.
Right. That's
so
not gonna happen.
It's only going to get worse. And I'm talking about from the president on down.
Right.
Anyway,
All right.
the Phillies are over 500. That's good.
They are?
Here we
Okay,
go.
so they must have won today then. Good for
This
them.
is over. Yep.
All right, keep winning, just keep winning. And we'll see what happens with those who watching hockey. I think tomorrow Buffalo plays Montreal, and the winner of that series will play
You're that Russian
Vegas,
hockey.
Colorado, yeah.
Who cares about hockey? It's cold. I went to one hockey game in my life. It was cold. I'm not going back.
You're a baby. All right. Okay, go play badminton. All right, see you later.